So I want to talk about just a little bit some of the things in my rental contracts. Now, this is an addendum. This, after doing 30 years of this, you kind of learn certain things along the way. And some of it's pretty straightforward. Rent them out, due dates, they're due the first of the month. I actually discount if things are paid on time. It saves me work trying to chase stuff down. And so I give a little discount if things are paid ahead of time. And I want you to pay attention to this next part of my addendum, the residential lease. And what I do on that is it's 60 days notice during the summer months. And then that's from March 1st to September 31st. So if you give me 60 days notice, my units are in good enough shape that I can rent them out without any problem. I can easily have it rented within that 60-day period for things to continue after the tenant moved out. During the winter months, I do ask things are a little bit slower up here in northern Wisconsin. People, for some reason, don't want to move when it's 30 below. So you don't see a whole lot of movement during that time period. But then from October 1st to February 28th, you have to give me 90 days notice. No matter what the contract, I sign people to a year contract, but this gives them an out. It gives them an earlier out. How is that beneficial to me? That person that has to move out for whatever reason, and they still have 9 months left on their contract, they will tend to disappear during the night. Where if I work with them with a 60-day, just give me a 60-day notice and you can be gone. And, then they tend to work. I tend to know ahead of time if people are moving out, and, it just works better for both of us. It gives them some flexibility. I just got a call from a tenant last week, and that's on our commercial. And I said, yep, no problem. Just give us 60 days notice. And she's actually in that unit, that storefront with some other people that are looking at staying. So, I mean, it's no big deal, but they feel good about it. They feel, and a lot of times they'll sign on for another year thinking, well, in June or, in 6 months from now, if I decide I want to leave, I've got the option. Otherwise, sometimes they think, well, I don't know what the future is going to bring. I'm going to move now. I'm going to give my notice now. And then 6 months from now, those that thought they might move in 6 months from now, they decide, I'm going to stay. So there is that plus to it also. Non-sufficient funds, I think that's all pretty straightforward. Number of people, that's straightforward. Utilities, that's pretty much straightforward. Insurance, I just want to talk about this. If you have rentals, you need to get proof of insurance in today's world that your tenants have insurance. And when they move in, when I hand them the keys, they have to give me proof of insurance. And then they have to update that on a yearly basis. Pretty soon, first of the year, I will be asking for that again. I apologize for the shakiness here, but kind of works better, I think, if I just hold it like this, going through some of these things. Trash disposal, I think I take care of them pretty much across the board on that. Wall decor, there again, in today's world, they don't need to put big nails in. And so, I mean, I don't know how many, where I was filling in 6-penny nails, holes and drywall screws and that kind of thing, when in today's world, that doesn't have to happen anymore. Window coverings are their responsibility. Quiet is appreciated. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in coming around the corner. Water beds, that's pretty straightforward. Septic sewer system, something goes wrong, and it was because somebody put something down that they weren't supposed to. What I do is either somebody comes clean on that, or that bill gets split between the people in the building. And they know that up front. So on a duplex, if somebody does something, the other side could land up paying half the bill to get whatever it is routed out, however you want to say it. This is kind of cool, I think. Maintenance inspection walkthrough. The first Monday of every month, I maintain the right to do a walkthrough of the unit. And I find that beneficial for two reasons. One, it gives the tenant the opportunity to talk to me and say, hey, I got this issue. So they're seeing you, but I maintain the right. That's my 24-hour notice that between 5 and 8 p.m., I get to walk through the first Monday of the month. Now, very seldom do I do it, in all honesty, but I have that written in as a right to be able to do it. I have done it on some where I've run into some issues with some tenants. Snow removal, that's pretty straightforward. Pets, not allowed. I encourage you to stick to that. If you're just getting in the rental business, there's nothing worse than cat piss. Just bluntly put, you get that in the carpet or get that in the subfloor, and you cannot get that smell out. I have a cleaning list. That'll be another time. I'll show you a complete checklist of what needs to be done before tenants move out. The majority of the time, it's not done with some of the clientele that I've dealt with. You know what I find? This will blow you away. Is I have had men, okay, so we're being a little probably prejudicial here, but it's the truth of the matter. I have had men that have come in, actually even they've just come in for short term because they're doing an internship at one of the mills. They're the best tenants I have. They leave the place cleaner than they got it, or as clean as they got it. They leave it certainly clean enough to be able to re-rent it out right away. Worst tenant? One of the worst tenants I ever had was a surgeon. And I always told my wife, I pray to God I never land up on a surgery table looking up at her, because I know I'm going to die, of some kind of infection shortly thereafter. Worst tenant I ever had was a surgeon. Left the place really, really messy, dirty. I couldn't believe it. Security deposit. I think that's pretty. This is my bargaining chip. A lot of times, is quite honestly, if somebody messes up, it comes down to, I'm going to try to hold this still, but the security deposit comes down to, I will give you back your security deposit if you leave without any further destruction to the property. And I don't care if it's dirty, I don't care if it's messy, I'll go in and clean it, and I'll take care of that little cost. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than a lawyer, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than wasting time trying to fight it. So that becomes my bargaining chip a lot of times. And vehicles, yeah, I learned this one the hard way too. I had a van that became a ornament in the yard for I don't know how long at one of my units. Vehicles not in use may not be parked on the premises for extended period of time. Landlord has the right to have the vehicle removed at tenant expense. Proper mufflers must be maintained. Complaints. Here's the deal. Here's the way I lay it out. The other people in the building have rights too. You are in here and you are part of a family, if you want to put it that way. The first complaint, you and I are going to sit down, discuss it, and see if we can get something figured out, because sometimes it's just a matter of communication, back and forth a little bit. and somebody may not even know they're doing something that's ticking somebody else off, and you sit down and have a discussion with them, it takes care of it. If I have a second complaint, then we're going to have a come to Jesus meeting. And that's the way I put it. We're going to sit down, and I'm usually going to get both sides, and I'll be fair about it. And then you're going to be probably asked to leave. And I've had to go that road a couple times, but the majority of the times, I sit people down. I say, okay, this is the way it is. You know, you don't like this. They don't like the situation. And these situations tend to fester over time. Okay, I'm going to give you an option, an out, and do it as fairly as possible again. And I'm going to put together something that works for all parties involved. So that is my attempt on that. And that's how it works. I've had to do evictions before. I did do one, a couple of years ago where the person lit the building on fire because as a part of this lease too is these units are not non-smoking. And that's in, I think, the first part. This is the addendum to my lease. I used the state of Wisconsin lease, renter's lease, and then this addendum is added to that. So my contracts are rather extensive. And I mean, it's come from the addendum for sure. It's come from things from the past, like TVs that were too big to get out, and I had to get 4 high school kids, and they could hardly lift the stupid thing, to get it out of the building and flop it down on a trailer and then take it to the landfill and all that stuff. So anytime I'm left with something left behind in this lease is, if I have to, any large item I have to dispose of is a $25 fee. Like I said before too, I have in here, it's non-smoking in your unit and on the property. So that stops the person from walking outside the door, lighting up a cigarette and the smoke blowing in the unit next door. People just don't care for it. And then also what it did is 2 years ago in January, we had a fire at one of the buildings. And luckily we had more smoke detectors than we were supposed to. And immediately the smoke detectors went off and the tenants were made aware of an issue, and they landed up calling the fire department and calling me right away. No, I called the fire department. I made sure they got people out of the building and met me in the building next door because I was about 5 minutes away at the time. But what happened is she was smoking right outside the back door, and the wind blew the cigarette butt into the box sill on the apartment building, and it started smoldering. And by the grace of God, that building did not go up. I cannot understand it. The winds were like 20 miles an hour, but she was smoking on the property, and she was liable for those actions, and it made it much easier for me to do an eviction on her. And it was at a point where there was a bunch of stuff going on. It was, it was time. She needed a change of scenery, I think. We both did. Anyways, this is just some ideas off of my addendum that over the years that I've found valuable. I think, the biggest thing is once a month, You leave yourself an option to have access to it, you know, like I do, first Monday of the month. Whether I use it or not is, you know, up to me, you know, and most of the time I don't. Insurance is big today. It wasn't when I started out that you had to, you know, if tenants didn't want to get their, I'm just not liable for anything they have in their apartment. But it now is my insurance company is asking that tenants provide tenant insurance to them, a copy of it. And so, you know, that lease, that 60/90 option, that pays off in a lot of ways. There are those that say, too, you know, I don't do a lease. I just do month to month. And this is a benefit. I can end a contract whenever I want on a month to month. And I legally, I don't know how that all plays out. I just don't. And, you know, anything on this, I guess you got to check with your lawyer, check with your local, you know, contract rules and regulations, basically tenant rights, those kind of things. It may be totally different than what I go by and use. And if any of this, if you like it, please hit that share button. And please hit that subscribe button. I'll be doing a couple more things and talking about a couple more of these type things in future videos.